Hey, Doug or Hannah? Doug, can you hear me? Hey, Doug.
Mayor and council, since it's 6:30, I'm going to go ahead and start the recording. You can go ahead and start whenever we get everybody there, but I'm going to go ahead and start the recording.
Hey, Doug, it's Rochelle.
Can you hear me? Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Because I think you guys are still muted. Okay, good. Perfect. Thank you.
But Doug,
What's going on?
Can you hear us, Doug?
I start back at work today.
Oh, cool.
And so that and the chiropractor, and then it just makes us busy, busy, busy.
Yeah.
Chris, we're trying to get Rochelle's name changed from Mike's to Rochelle on Zoom.
I had to run home and get a mask.
Not a great day for running.
No.
Too much particulate in the air.
Did anybody, Chris or Doug?
Did you see the pictures of 7?
Chris or Doug?
Bright red sky.
Oh,
With no light.
Turn
Rochelle,
on
can you-
mute. So if you right click on your name, it should allow you to change the name.
5 miles from Placerville. It was
You know
under a
what,
mile.
Chris? I tried that, but it's not giving me that option anywhere I go. So, because Mike used my computer for a webinar.
Well, it's there. It's definitely there.
I can't see it on mine.
I don't know if we can't hear anything if you're trying to adjust for it.
So are they able to hear me?
Nikki Coleman, can you hear us? Okay, because Doug, can you hear us?
Helps with my volumes up, sorry.
Oh, we've been calling Doug.
Oh, have you? Oh, sorry. I was trying to figure out, and then I just, when I saw Nikki put her thumb up, I'm like, oh, man, I better check my volume. And it was down, so.
I always see Nikki, so I thought I'd ask. We're trying to get Rochelle's name changed. She's on the Zoom as Mike Lego Marcino. We need it changed to Rochelle Kellogg. The right click that allows you to rename is not available to her.
Is that something Hannah needs to allow?
That's what I was wondering if Hannah needs to allow it. Hi, Jim.
Hey, I'm there now.
Oh, there, as Rochelle.
I know. Hey, I'm Rochelle tonight.
Oh, did you? Did I? Okay.
I feel everybody butchers my name, Rochelle.
That's okay. It's all good. At least I'm not Mike anymore.
poor Mike.
So we'll give it another minute to make sure we don't have any issues or problems, and then we'll start the meeting.
And I'm just a little bit worried that we can,
Yeah, I'm out of the picture.
oh yeah, just thinking maybe if we can have Colette and Mark, would you mind coming in just a little bit towards that, making sure you're 6 feet, but just so we can see you, because I think Anne's right in your
Oh, should I?
line.
Am I okay where I am now?
You're okay. I just want to make sure we can see all the council members. Making sure we're masks and 6 feet.
We're not quite 6 feet, but close enough.
Masks.
As long as
Cool.
they can see my
Okay.
name. Call me by my name.
Okay, is everybody, Doug, you can hear me, correct?
I can. Amazing what
Excellent.
volume does.
Okay, so the time is now 6:34, and we're going to call the Thursday, September 10th, Sonora City Council meeting to order. And Pledge of Allegiance, Councilmember Such.
Flag of the United States of America and to the liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Okay, roll call, please, Mary Rose.
Mayor Hawkins,
Here?
Mayor Pro Tem Plummer.
Here.
Councilmember Garaventa,
Here.
Councilmember Sagerstrom,
Here.
and Councilmember Such.
Here, is my microphone on?
I believe so. Can everybody hear Colette okay?
Is there
It's a little
something?
faint.
Oh, they said yes.
Now you're on.
You're
Oh,
you're
okay.
good. You're good.
All the mics have been set up.
I know, and I turned it off.
Oh,
Because I thought I was turning it on. I have no idea if it's on or not.
Si-
You can't hear me.
Nikki, will you let us know if we can't hear Colette? Just give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
She's very.
She's our go-to. I can see her. She's my first person on Zoom. That's why.
Oh, that's cool.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
City Clerk's report on agenda posting.
So this was a little bit of a strange one. We posted the regular meeting for September 8th last Thursday at about 3 p.m. As we are aware, due to the PSPSs from PG&E, we were unfortunately we had to cancel Tuesday's meeting on the 8th. We reposted for a special meeting tonight, which is the same exact agenda as for September 8th. And we posted that agenda yesterday, September 9th, at about 12 noon.
Thank you. There are no presentations or proclamations. Public comment. The public may address the council on any item of public interest, not otherwise on the agenda, that is within the jurisdiction of the city. No action may be taken. Matters to be addressed may be referred to city staff or placed on a subsequent meeting agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes of a presentation. Do we have anybody that would like to make any public comments?
And for all those in the public, if you'd like to make a public comment on non-agendized items, you can simply raise your hand with the raise your hand feature, or if you can't find
Raise your
that
hand. Do you
feature,
want to say anything about PG&E?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mary Rose. I think somebody's unmuted and they were talking.
Yeah, I see that a comment from the Sun. You can make your public comment now.
PG&E's a rip-off artist.
Just leave it. Just leave it. I want to do on the
No,
race
right.
thing.
Look at them. They don't know what to say. Ha ha.
So, okay, that'd be the,
Thank you.
any other public comment? Again, press *9 if you're on a regular phone, or use the raise your hand feature on Zoom, and that's under the participant button.
I don't see anybody else, Doug.
All right, you're not, Mayor.
Okay.
I don't see anybody else, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Okay, consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar considered routine and will be voted on in one motion unless a council member or a member of the public has a question or wishes to discuss an item. In that case, an item will be removed from the consent calendar. I apologize, this mask is definitely getting in the way of my mouth a little bit. And will be removed from the consent calendar considered separately. Item number 1 is approval of disbursements in the amount of $153,093.31 for payroll, inclusive of employee salaries, employer and employee taxes, and retirement contributions, miscellaneous voluntary employee deductions, retrospective pay, holiday pay, and equity adjustments. And then number 2 is consideration to receive the bid receipt report for year 20/21 striping project. Award the construction contract to Central Striping Services Incorporated in the amount of a total base bid price of $39,190.58 and authorize the city administrator to execute the agreement. Did anyone want to pull an item from the consent calendar? Okay. So, I guess we ask for public comment because, okay. Is there any public comment on the consent calendar?
And again, if you'd like to make a public comment, just as before, press *9 if you're on a phone, or you can use the raise your hand feature on your computer, tablet, or smartphone.
I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Okay. Okay, so we'll bring it back to the council.
Move on move on consent calendar, move to approve.
Okay, got a first and by Councilmember Garaventa and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Plummer. Mary Rose, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Hawkins,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Plummer,
Aye.
Councilmember Garaventa,
Aye.
Councilmember Sagerstrom,
Aye.
and Councilmember Such.
Aye. May I ask a question?
Yes.
Is it supposed to be retroactive pay, not retrospective?
Retrospective pay.
What's retrospective?
Retrospective pay is the pay that is additional incentive pay. So you have not only your base pay, but all your additional overtime, all of those retrospective pays.
Okay, so that's overtime.
Okay, so approve 5-0. Okay, item number 3 is public hearings. Consideration to approve amended urgency ordinance 868 to include bar and health center establishments that may apply for a special temporary outdoor operations permit during the COVID-19 pandemic emergency. Mary Rose.
Good evening. This is an item that has been asked to be brought back. The council on August 18th directed staff to bring back an item to amend urgency ordinance 868 that the council approved back on May 14th. At the time of the approval of that urgency ordinance, we had allowed restaurants and brew pubs to apply for a outdoor special operations permit to be able to expand seating capacity of their restaurants based on the new COVID guidelines that the state had given at that time back in May. Since May, obviously, there have been additional guidelines that have come down from the state. And although that we are now on tier orange and restaurants and bars, or excuse me, restaurants can be open within 50% inside, bars still cannot be allowed to be open indoors on the tier orange. And so at the time, the council had asked to bring back an amended ordinance to include bars to allow for, to be allowed to qualify for this special outdoor permit. And also we had discussed about allowing health centers to apply for this permit and hair salons. Since August 18th, once again, the state guidelines have changed. And amongst all tiers now for the state, yellow, orange, red, and purple, hair salons are allowed to operate within the COVID guidelines at a certain percentage of capacity. Recommendation from staff is to not include hair salons at this time on the amended urgency ordinance, but to allow for the bars to allow to apply for these permits, and also health centers. We have received requests from multiple health center establishments and gyms in the city of Sonora to expand their capacity outdoors. So before you is the amended urgency ordinance, both in the legislative revision format as well as the final version.
Thank you. Any council member questions before we go to public comment? Council member.
They still have to follow ABC, state ABC, whatever those guidelines are currently.
They do. And if you recall from the meeting on August 18th, the police chief gave a synopsis on what those requirements were from ABC. They are required to obtain a catering authorization, which means they have to be able to show a relationship between an established eatery or restaurant or even some sort of food truck establishment, receive this catering authorization to allow them to operate outdoors. Without that catering authorization, ABC will not allow them to operate outdoors.
And then just for the public's knowledge, Mary Rose, for hair salons, why did staff ask for that to not be included at this time?
So the guidelines that were just released from the state last week put the guidelines into specific tiers, yellow, orange, red, and purple. Amongst all of those tiers, hair salons are allowed to operate indoors at this time, obviously within a reduction of their capacity, but they are still allowed to operate indoors at all tiers. And right now, as I stated before, the County of Tuolumne is at a tier orange, allowing for hair salons to operate inside.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Such.
But I wonder if it wouldn't just be prudent to include them, because that could change, right? And then we have to.
I think we're having trouble hearing you, Colette.
You're off.
Is that better?
Yep.
Sorry. I just wonder if we should include hair salons, because if that could change, and if it changes, then they would be out of business until we convene to add hair salons back in. So what's the reason for not just letting them be in now, even though it's not necessary?
I think the consensus among the state is to, I mean, with the consensus of all tiers now allowing hair salons, I haven't heard anything coming down from public health or the state that they intend to change it back. The consensus was to allow them to operate indoors. So that was the guidelines that we got, that there wasn't going to be anything new on the horizon that was going to close them back down and not allow them to operate indoors within a capacity indoors. Obviously, right now they have that limited capacity. They can't be fully operational, obviously, because they have those guidelines in place as far as, you know, the separation of the 6 feet and the masking and everything. But as far as I heard, within all 4 tiers that they're allowed to operate, it wasn't suspected that the state was going to come down and close them once again like they did in the beginning of the COVID pandemic. But then again, we're seeing changes.
It's a moving
all the
target.
time.
I don't know. I would rather, unless the council will agree to convene immediately if they get taken, you know, if this changes, I think we should just add it, because there's no reason not to. I mean, they don't want to operate outdoors. I mean, it's not like they're going to start asking for parking spaces. But you know, I don't know. I just don't want to see hair salons, if they were to get more strict, to lose business for a week or a day because we didn't include them. That's all.
Is that language already in the documents? It is, isn't it?
No.
What, hair salons?
Did we
The hair
withdraw?
salons are not in the
okay.
document, because the hair salons are allowable at any tier.
Okay.
Meaning the new state
Right.
guidelines are you have to be 3 weeks
Okay.
within a tier before you can, you can
Right,
shift.
I heard
Yeah.
you.
So the thought from staff was, because you can be at the worst possible stage possible
Right.
at a purple tier and still being able to operate as a hair salon,
Okay.
not to include them outdoors. But if council directs staff to include that, then that's a change we can make.
So, real quick, before we go to public comment, Ann, did you have anything?
it's all
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've,
That's just a thoughtful pose.
Well, you know, I think Councilmember Such has a really good point. And well, it's not a lot of extra work. It does point to our efforts and our willingness to do whatever it takes.
They haven't even talked about the race thing.
No, I say COVID's a lie. I'm gonna say
Don't
that.
fucking shush me.
No,
I'm sorry.
Lucas, can you hear me?
I don't know.
Can we mute all?
I have, they keep.
I told you.
Yeah, is my mic on?
Your mic.
I hear you.
Okay.
Active at the
So
sun.
it's just, I mean, much like my efforts with Bradford Street, it's something that is low
Yeah, now
cost.
it's
I'm literally a fat retard with a mask.
Doug, can we, the participant, the son, is the one making the comments. Is there something?
So I'm just going to put it on the record. If they can't wait their turn to be recognized, then the next step would be to boot them from the meeting. So I've muted them when they haven't been recognized now about 5 or 7 times. So.
Well, anyway, that pretty much wraps up my support for that. But
So the question I would have is, do we have to re-advertise this if we make changes, or no? I see Doug shaking his head no, so, okay.
You're fine. You can make the changes from the dais if you'd like. We just need to get the proper language from Rochelle as to how we identify. I think it's probably going to be hair salons and beauty salons, but I just need to get the if Rochelle knew off the top of her head so that we had the exact language to adopt as part of a motion. That's all we would need.
Okay.
So Mary
that-
Rose, Mary Rose is actually probably the one, Kim works with Mary Rose on that. I don't know the language off the top of my head.
So I think we can just probably go with, unless Mary Rose, you have any changes, beauty salons and hair salons.
The only question I would ask are we going to allow nail salons as well? Hair and nail? The direction from the last council meeting was hair salons, health centers, and bars. But in other counties, we're noticing hair salons being allowed to operate and then nail salons not. So it's something, if you would like, if we want to just say.
Does the state view them differently as, okay, so
Yes.
it would be sort of arbitrary for us to just, because I don't know much of the differences health-wise, and I would imagine that our ladies on the council would have a better idea what might be.
This is Rochelle, sorry, I actually think it's a little harder for nail salons. I think they have more restrictions on them, so being able to operate outside might be a benefit for them.
It's also healthier.
With all that, yeah, like toxic stuff.
Right. I wouldn't oppose to, I'm sorry.
No.
Just went rogue.
It's okay. This is a confusing night for everyone. And I'm not taking anything personally. So I was just going to say, I think we should just do what we need to do to be able to protect our businesses. And that way, if something changes, because cold and flu season's right around the corner, we have no idea what the state's going to do.
That's very true.
And,
It changes on a whim.
I think that we just need to do what we can to protect our businesses. And, barbershops or something else that go in there with the nail salons. And I know a lot of men that go in and get their fingernails done and their toenails done, even some loggers. I kid you not. And it's because of safety.
Loggers are refined.
Yes. So I think that we just need to do what we can, and let's just work this so we can protect our businesses and make sure we can just get up and running in as what we said before, the broadest brush possible while operating within the state's guidelines/laws.
So you should add barbershops to this?
No, I think they're under hair salons.
They are?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know that
For guys? Okay.
I know that my barber was sticking people outside and then bringing one in at a time, and everybody was waiting outside. That was great, and they were cleaning up, and so.
Now, having said this, I can't imagine having my hair done outside. I don't know how they're going to pull that off, but many salons have nail salons as part of their service, so. Sure.
I can't imagine doing my fingernails. I thought dragging the knuckles just dragged them off automatically.
I bite mine, but that's a whole nother matter. So any other council members have any comments?
Not at this point.
Okay. Okay, so turn it over to public comment.
So
And let's-
Mayor, before we do that, I just want to let everybody know, because we had some people unmuting themselves and going out of turn. I've taken the ability for folks to unmute themselves, at least until they're given that option away. And so people will have to definitely rely on the raise your hand feature, or you can use your video and wave your hand profusely and we'll recognize you. And before we get started, I just want to remind everybody that the city of Sonora does have a code of civility and a code of conduct. And it is the expectation that we comply with it. And if you don't, then the mayor or myself have the ability to mute you and conclude your comments. So we do ask that everything be done in a civil discourse way. People have First Amendment rights, but that doesn't mean you can do and say anything that you want. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Doug. I was just going to ask for civility. So again, I think you covered that. So let's take the first person.
So again, if you want to talk on this matter, please use the raise your hand feature, which can be found under the participant button. It's a button that you press on either your computer, tablet, or smartphone. In the alternative, if you're using a rotary dial phone, you can press *9 and that will have you recognized.
Hopefully we got a few hands raised.
I don't see any, Mr. Mayor.
I don't see any hands raised, but I'm going to scroll through the pictures too, and I don't see anybody on video profusely waving their hands back and forth either.
Huh. Okay, great. I mean, again, as long as everybody gets their turn to speak, that's okay. Okay, so if no member of the public would like to speak, I'd like to bring it back to the council, and I believe Councilmember Such.
Just on the ordinance, on page 13, or the very first paragraph, where it says pursuant to section 5 of this ordinance to serve food or beverages outdoors. I think it should be to serve food, beverages, or perform business outdoors, since we're adding hair salons and nails or wherever we're adding.
Yeah.
And also health centers, because they would be performing business, not serving food.
And if you're a bar, don't you have to serve food and beverage outdoors?
Yes, they can only serve alcohol outside with
food.
with food.
So I don't know if that needs to be modified or not.
I talked to one restaurant that was already doing this downtown, and it sounds like a great partnership. And as I've said before, I think many of our businesses downtown haven't had to work together. And I think this is going to be some of the good that's going to come out of this, is that more businesses are going to need to work together. So I think this is great. So, anyone have anything else they wanted to say? I'm not used to this quiet of a council.
Okay, I'll say something else then.
Councilmember Such.
On page 15, section 10, urgency finding, where it says, the city hereby finds, determines, and declares that this ordinance is necessary to the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, or safety, because there is an urgent need to slow COVID-19 transmission as much as possible to protect the most vulnerable. Isn't it to protect all of the citizens? Not just the most vulnerable? I mean, very healthy young people get this virus and die. So I just think it's good to kind of reinforce that it's not just the most vulnerable who are vulnerable to it.
So Doug, from a legal perspective, I know that that's the urgency legal finding. Does Councilmember Such wants to know if she can include additional language, or I know we want to make sure that we have the urgency finding language correct.
I think it's fine to add the additional language if you'd like to.
Okay.
Thanks.
Excellent, thank you.
So,
Okay,
sorry, Matt, this is Rochelle. So I looked up the categories while you guys were talking so we would know what they were. And hair salons and barbershops fall under one category. And then nail salons fall under personal care services. And there's several things under that, including tattooing, piercing, but nail salons do fall under that. So it's a different category. So you probably are going to want to call that out in particular. And then the other one is hair salons and barbershops, if that's the direction you guys want to go.
Yes, we made that comment that they're two separate categories, Rochelle.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so if
And
there's
then Mayor, the Sun actually has their hand up now. I mean, obviously this is a little bit, you've already closed public comment, but I at least wanted to recognize that they raised their hand, but it's after you close public comment. So on the item.
Okay, so we could go back in and open public comment if the council's okay
Certainly
with it.
reopen public comment if you'd like, Mayor, but because of the fact that I took people's inability to unmute themselves, I wanted to draw that to your attention before we moved on or took a vote.
Okay. Let's kind of get a consensus from the council. So, I mean, we kept it open, so for a minute or two and asked and nobody responded, so. Okay. So, you know what? I think we'll just go ahead and open it back up, Doug. And if anybody else would like to make a comment, because it sounded like we had a little bit more, and as long as everything's respectful, there's no issues. So,
So again, just if anybody wants to make a comment, again, you use the *9 function on your phone, or you use the raise your hand function on your computer, tablet, or phone. So I'm going to unmute the sun right now.
okay. So,
Come on, what you can say?
Okay, you're on the sun. You're now on.
Okay, I only think it says on the CDC, 9,210 people died from COVID and the rest died from other things. I'm just not buying into this and everyone's wearing a mask and Fauci's a liar. Then you can mute me now.
Okay, I think that concludes their public comment, Mayor.
thank you very much. Is there anyone else before we bring it back to the council?
Let me look through the gallery, see if anybody's waving their hand. I don't see anybody, Mayor.
Okay. So let's bring it back to the council. Would anyone else like to speak before I ask for a motion? Okay, looking for a motion with, okay, Councilmember Sutch.
I'd like to approve the amended urgency ordinance 868 to include bars, health, hair salons, barber shops, nail salons, or public.
Personal care.
I think you want to use the word hair salon because personal care will open it up even broader unless you intend to say tattoos and stuff like that as well.
Okay, and health centers, so that they may apply for a special temporary outdoor operations permit during the COVID-19 pandemic emergency.
Second.
Question. So we're by saying nail salons and not personal care equipment, we're excluding the tattoo artists, the other agencies that Rochelle mentioned under that broader.
Correct. So unless it's your intention to open it up to the entirety of that category, then that's when you would change the words to personal care.
Nail salons.
So as it stands right now, it's hair and nails. And then if you want to open it broader, then you could do that, and that's when we would change the wording. But that's why it's limited the way it is.
I'd kind of like to get a definition of what all the ones that are under personal care equipment, because I mean, I think if we're trying to decide who can open, who can't open, why shouldn't a tattoo place not open when a nail salon person can open, or vice versa? Seems to me if we're going to open it, trying to be as broad and as open as possible. We still have to follow the state guidelines anyway. I just think we should get a better definition of what we're excluding, and by not doing the personal that particular definitions versus just nail salons alone. I wonder if someone can do that.
Rochelle, I unmuted you so that you can address that.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I got out of it, so let me find it real quick. I apologize. Dang it. I apologize. I thought you guys were moving on, so
It's okay. Has the state made any provisions for tattoo parlors to work outside?
I have not heard that,
So,
but that doesn't mean it's not happening.
okay. I'm woefully ignorant about how it works. I thought you had to have clean,
Yeah.
safe
clean
environment,
needles and all
and
that
that
kind of
inside
stuff.
was the limit of that. But
I know I was going to say, I know the tattoo shop that is right by my
It's near you
house.
on Toby, yeah.
Yes, and he's allowing one person in at a time. And, I see a couple people, they're waiting outside, but, there's very, very structured.
So he's operating.
Yes, but
They're allowed to be open.
so guys, I'm
Yeah.
looking here on the guidance part. And I'm sorry, I'm not being real helpful. They have a general category, and that's what I was looking at first. Says, follow this guidance for personal care services provided outdoors to support outdoor.
No, I think they're looking for the definition of what falls within.
Yeah, I'm
personal
looking
care.
there. Says guidance for personal care services like nail salons, tattoo parlors, and body waxing. And that's what they have on here. And I don't know, like massage therapists and those, I don't know what they fall under.
Councilmember Such?
Right, Rochelle, did they say anything about facials or estheticians, I think they're called?
No, I don't see them on here.
If I could make a recommendation, maybe we go with the more narrow view tonight. This has to, oh wait, this doesn't come back because it's an emergency ordinance. It doesn't come back for second reading. Never mind.
Trying to see if we can get this.
Oh, and massage services also fall under that as well. So, and I do know that, I guess, I've been told that the county will allow them to do massage therapy outside if they have the proper facilities. That's what I've been told anyway.
And Mayor, just not to belabor it, but you have another, oh, it went away. Never mind. They just put their hand down.
So that's what I see on here.
Okay, so what is the council's pleasure? We had a motion and a second, but Jim, you brought up some very valid questions.
Well, I mean, it just seems to me that we should be, if we're going to allow nail salons, but not other things under personal care, it's like choosing one form of business over another form of business. And I don't think we should be doing it. If the idea is to allow us to get them outside and keep our businesses as whole as possible during this crisis, then we should try to be as less restrictive on that part as possible. We still have to follow the state guidelines no matter what they are. And so that will dictate a lot of what, will come down, what protections will come down from them. So my personal preference is that it should be the PPE category as opposed to the just nail salons.
So can I just change my motion to include what Jim just said? Or do you want me to start over again?
So hair salon, as amended, to add hair salons and personal care services?
Yes.
And then do
Second the
you have
amended.
to include the most vulnerable individuals in the urgency part or not?
No, I think that just gets rewritten.
Yeah.
So I second the amended motion.
Okay, so we have an amended first by Councilmember Such and an amended second by Mayor Pro Tem Plummer. Mary Rose, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Hawkins?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Plummer?
Aye.
Councilmember Garaventa?
Aye.
Councilmember Segerstrom?
Aye.
And Councilmember Such?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Okay, so under unfinished business, consideration to approve members to the Social Equity Committee made up of 5 members of the public, each selected by one council member, and consideration to approve suggested committee outcomes. Mary Rose.
So, my agenda. This was again an item that was asked by the council to be brought back by staff for selection of approved public participant members. And also, at the time, this was July 20th, that the council directed staff to have Councilmember Such and Councilmember Garaventa work together to develop a process in which we would be selecting those members of the public. Councilmember Such and Councilmember Garaventa met and developed a timeline and an application process for those members of the public. The application deadline was August 21st for any member of the public to apply for the Social Equity Committee. At the time, the council, the city of Sonora received 12 applications. And once those applications were received on August 21st, they were subsequently reviewed by all council members. And each council member made a selection of which member of the public they would like to see representative on the committee. Those members of the public that were selected are in your packet, and they are listed as such: Nikki Coleman, Darren Duez, Nathan Morales, Sylvia Roberts, and Mercedes Toon. On that diagram in the packet, it is seeing that each council member, which council member selected each member of the public. And so the item is two parts. It's asking the council to approve the totality of the member, each of all members as a whole to this committee. Also, Councilmember Such and Councilmember Garaventa met and developed a framework for outcomes and priorities of this committee. And these committees, again, are listed, or excuse me, these outcomes are listed within your packet. And the second recommendation is for the council to approve the suggested outcomes as well as the members for the Social Equity Committee.
Okay, thank you. Before I turn it to public comment, of course, would any council members like to comment? Okay. Oh, Councilmember Such.
I would actually like to ask the council to consider increasing the size of this committee to 9, so with 2 more public members. I think, you know, if you look at, if you read about the optimal size of a committee, 7 is not it. It's actually as high as 10. And I think that there's more talent out there that we haven't tapped. So I would like the council to consider that.
I think we're pretty far down this road, and I'd like to just continue as is. I think it's, I mean, it kind of blew up, I guess, on the website for the paper today, but with lots of people feeling that we shouldn't be dealing with this, we have streets to fix and that type of thing. I think that allowing or making room for people who feel that outside the system to have a voice is very valuable. But I'd like to just keep it where it is and forge ahead.
I don't completely disagree with you, although I don't think that this needs to stop any of the progress that we've made. I mean, I don't think it needs to delay the meeting. If we do this, I think we should only choose from people who've already submitted applications, you know, obviously. I just think it could be a deeper and richer and more robust committee.
Anyone else? Jim or Ann?
Well, I agree with Colette. I think, you know, it's not as representative as we could make it. And, you know, 2 more members, I don't think is going to cause any stoppage or impediment to the committee. And as far as I can see, it's, you know, I mean, they don't have, you know, they will be, you know, doing a lot of community outreach among themselves, and the more coverage we can get, the better, I think. So
if I could, through the mayor, sir, this committee would be an open public committee. So meetings would be done open to the public. So just in case members outside of those selected wanted to participate, this is an open committee.
Thank you.
Open to the public, I should say.
I was actually going to bring that up.
I was wondering, have we already decided on meeting times or regular where the public can start to make plans to participate?
Well, I think there's some talk about doing it on second and fourth Mondays, opposite our first and third Mondays.
And
evenings.
Because the public can participate, I think we get all of the interested parties at every meeting anyway. We don't need to, because otherwise, if you want to do that, you almost have to say to make it equitable that each council member appoints a second person.
Well, I mean, that actually crosses the threshold for an ideal size. Selection is complicated. I'm not quite sure how we would do that. I don't know if we pull straws. I don't know if we would make those decisions as a group. I don't know if we would divide up and make those decisions. And certainly the public can participate, but public participation, as we know, is not the same as being on the council or being on the task force. There's a difference. It's not equal. And I just think that when I reviewed those applications, there was a lot of talent, and I thought there were a lot of good voices that we weren't able to include. So, well, maybe we should open it up to public comment and see what they think. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that was a little overreaching. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was getting ready because I can always tell when Jim is going to say something or he's thinking of something. So I was going to ask him if he.
No, no,
So, okay.
not at this point.
So any other council members like to speak before I turn it over to public comment? Okay. So Doug, looking for public comment and raised hands.
Yep, so if you want to raise your hand and you want to speak on this item, please press *9, or if you're on a phone, or if you're using a laptop, tablet, or smartphone, you can use the raise your hand feature, which can be found under participants. Mayor, at this moment, we have 3 people who have raised their hands. The first one is, and I apologize if I butcher anybody's name, but Marin Soto.
Okay. Go ahead and unmute them, please.
Yep.
I think I'm unmuted at this moment.
You are?
Yes.
Don't worry, I went through the 4th grade as Marilyn, but it's actually Meryl pronounced just like Meryl Streep.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. So I just had a couple of questions. I wanted to know a little bit more about the committee. What are your objectives? What do you imagine you're going to be able to accomplish? And what kind of connections with the community are you hoping to build?
Okay. Mary Rose, did you want to answer that a little bit more? So it's.
Well, I believe the second part of this item is to develop the outcomes.
Yes.
And priorities. So the council hasn't quite determined the full extent of this committee. So I would definitely defer to that until we get to that portion of the item.
Okay. And Meryl, your question will be answered.
Okay, Mayor, this next person in line to speak is Elizabeth Wilkie.
Okay. Go ahead, Elizabeth, we are listening.
Okay, first of all, I would like to voice my agreement with Councilwoman Such about increasing the size of the committee. I think that would be very beneficial. And like somebody else said, being on the committee is not the same as being, it's not this, being able to attend a committee meeting is not the same as being on the committee. And I also am wanting to read a statement from Karen Wood, who was unable to attend at this time, but she asked me to read this for her. She says, "Hello, I am going to comment on the agenda item that involves the adoption of the Social Equity Committee because I am unable to stay for that part of the agenda. I want to voice my support for the development of this committee. When the committee was first discussed, it was in regards to a resolution condemning racism. It is my understanding that the committee will now be looking at not only racism in Tuolumne County, but looking at how all marginalized people within our community are treated. Racism is a challenging topic for many white people to discuss because of the history of severe racism in America. Taking the step of forming this committee and starting this conversation here in a predominantly white community is commendable, and I want to thank Colette Such for leading the way. Though this has been a difficult journey ahead, I applaud the efforts of the Sonora City Council to begin this very difficult and painful conversation and hope that we will move forward instead of backwards in eradicating racism in our county. It is my hope that this committee will seek stories from people outside of the committee to get a more broad understanding of racism and what people of color face on a daily basis in Tuolumne County. As white people, we have a responsibility to address not only systemic racism within our county, but to address individual active racists that threaten the safety and livelihood of many people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Doug, you said we have another hand raised?
Yeah, Mayor, next online is the Sun.
Okay, we are listening.
Black Lives Matter is painted on my wall by my neighbor. She believes in Black Lives Matter and Antifa and the gay agenda. Why is that allowed? And Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization. I feel threatened by that. She put up Facebook posts threatening my life and my husband's life, and I have an autistic child. Why is Black Lives Matter allowed in Tuolumne County? And what is your feelings on this?
Okay, I think the Sun's concluded their comments, Mayor.
Okay, just wait for
Okay.
this.
Doug, can I just, I'm sorry, before you move on, Nikki Coleman has had her hand raised. I know Lauren Hurley also has her hand raised, but Nikki's had her hand raised for a while.
And Nikki.
So something I just wanted to bring up is that it's about this particular agenda. This part, what we're talking about now is about this particular agenda item, not necessarily, how we feel or how the council feels about one particular group. And that can go either way, because I'm not taking a stance right now because that's not part of the agenda. It's actually what's on the agenda to approve the members of the Social Equity Committee and approve the suggested committee outcomes. So I just want to make that clear.
So Nikki should be unmuted, Mayor.
Excellent. Nikki, go ahead.
Aloha. I first just want to thank the council and city staff for the time that you guys have spent in creating this committee and going through the applications. I know there is a lot going on in our community and in the world. Civil rights is a priority. I do want to absolutely put in my full support and ask the council to approve the totality of the committee members that the council has appointed. It is time, it is necessary, and I am so proud to have City Council just taking the time to put this together right now. So approving this today will make that time not wasted. I would also like to completely agree with Councilwoman Such in adding 1 to 2 additional members to the committee. I know for sure of at least one local African-American woman who has applied to this committee. I am a person of color in that I'm Native Hawaiian and I'm Native American, but I do not have Black skin and I have not walked in her shoes. And I think the voices of the Black folks in our community who have had the experiences that they have had are crucial to the success of this committee. As people not of African-American descent, we can sit around a table as much as we want to and try to make change. But I think just having the experiences of 1 to 2 additional people of color in our committee will absolutely bring a lot of meaning and a lot of unity and a lot of understanding. And I absolutely would ask that the council really look into adding 1 or 2 additional committee members and using the reasoning of not wanting to stop the progress or cave into some of the things that are currently being said on social media. To me, that's not a good enough reason. We need 1 to 2 additional people, and I think it will bring a lot of good to us. We have really good work to do. I'm very thankful to be here, and I'm really thankful again to the council and the city staff for putting in the time to do this good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. Is there anyone else, Doug?
There is Mayor Lauren Hurley.
Oh, excellent. Go ahead, Lauren.
Hello, Mayor. Hi, Council. I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to form this committee. I think it's very important. I want to say that I agree with Councilwoman Such that adding 1 to 2 more members would be very beneficial. I also agree that it should not slow down any process. You already have a list of people to choose from. And from what I've heard, there are some people of color on that list who would very much like to be on this committee. And I think belong on this committee, especially after some events of today on social media. So I just like to say I can't wait for these meetings to start. And I hope you do add 1 or 2 more people without a delay. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And one last call, Mayor. I don't have anybody else with their hand raised, but if somebody would like to speak, please use the raise your hand function, or Mercedes, I got you, or wave your hand and on video, and I will recognize you. So I do have a hand raised by Mercedes Toon, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead, Mercedes.
Takes a second, hold on.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to support the initiative of Colette of adding a couple people to the committee. It's true that we need more people. Research shows that it's much better and more efficient having diversity in a committee. And we have 2 African Americans that have applied, and they would be very important voices in our committee. And I want to appreciate the City Council for taking this step. This is a time to be flexible, and it is a time to take risks. I know there will be some backlashes, but it's not time to back off in the work we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mercedes. Is there anyone else?
Mayor, I do not see anybody else shaking their hand on video or raising their hand in the queue.
Okay. So we will bring it back to the council. I know there was a question a second ago about what had happened on social media, and I saw part of it, and it was actually my proposed appointee was I pretty well accosted on there and go through the whole bit, you know, a lot of name calling and that sort of thing towards him. So I'm sure it was happening to others also, but you know, and I'll make this statement, regardless of how I feel, I know our constituents seem to want this. I've listened to a lot of people. A lot of people seem to want to do this. So that's what the city council is doing. I know there's a lot of people trying to use this particular issue and others to try to divide this council. And I got to commend this council for sticking together. But that's part of what happened today. In case anyone doesn't know, I mean, it's
all on Facebook, or
part of it got put on Facebook where, you know, they were in just petty arguments. I'm not going to name any names, but petty arguments and name calling and that sort of thing. And it's from one particular group of people that's already trying to divide this council, a council that is running pretty smoothly and pretty well, even though we've all got our own ideas, we get along, and there's a group of people out there that are doing their best to divide us. And it doesn't matter right, left, somewhere in between, it doesn't matter. It's the fact that there are people trying to really divide us. So that's the part I can answer for, because that's what I saw. Obviously I didn't comment on Facebook, but that's what's going on. And I just give some feedback because everyone else has talked about adding 2 more members. I could go either way on it. I just want to get this off the ground and rolling. I know that we don't have a budget to put a ton of things forward like we would like to, but you know, I would like to see this getting moved forward. So the question I have, are we able to approve like the members tonight that we got? and then come back to another council meeting in the
It
future?
would have to be re-agendized and brought back, because
Okay.
right now the recommendation is only to approve the 5 that the council authorized, the 5 of each representative council member, and then the outcome.
Okay, excellent. I think that's all the questions I have for right now.
Well, I just wanted to
Oh.
clarify, because I believe we do have a person a black person. Sylvia Roberts is black, right? Okay, so I mean, it's not like the black people have been completely ignored, so.
Correct.
Well, then
We have a
further-
starter, anyway.
So
I don't want to say arguments, but the persuasion is strong. My point, though, is that let's just say the left wing already has the majority here. If we give you an overwhelming majority, I would like to have an equitable position of somebody who represents not just people who want to talk to this, but people who also represent the county and live in the city. I think that what you're doing, the way it feels to me, is that you're saying, well, I've got good arguments and I'm going to overwhelmingly stack the committee with people I want. And that just doesn't seem fair.
Well, I actually didn't say that. I mean, I said I didn't know how.
Okay, but that's what I said I'm feeling.
Well, I know, but that was a little bit of an attack, Mark. I think there are more voices that we could add to this committee. I don't think I get to choose them. I don't know how they'll be chosen. If the council decides that it could be one person from, one person that people who think like me might choose, and one person, that people who think like you might choose, that's fine with me. I mean, I don't have an intention to staff the committee. I actually don't know the persuasions of the person you chose or the person Matt chose. I don't know.
Well, we're handicapped by the Brown Act because it'd be nice just to be able to sit down and talk and ask what your goals are and that type of thing, which is why we're talking about it now. But
I mean, of the committee members?
Well, the committee members and then the goals as well. But I mean, to some degree.
Wasn't that what we're doing now, though?
Yeah,
Yes, that's what we're doing now.
Listed on the
But
back page.
it would have
here.
been nice, 5 weeks ago, to be able to just sit down and say, hey, let's talk a little bit. But anyway, so I'd rather just keep what we have and forge ahead.
So just to be really clear, what we can do and what we can't do tonight. So you can give us direction to bring back an agenda item for the future if you want, to expand the committee. But because that would go well, I mean, unlike the previous item, adding to the committee, which is not on the agenda right now, as opposed to appointing people, which is on the agenda, we would be limited to those appointments tonight. But you could give direction to come bring something back. That being said, as I think the city administrator kind of alluded to, because of the city's tight budget, I would only ask that you ask us to bring that back if there's actually kind of some enthusiasm, more than just peripheral enthusiasm about it, to kind of entertain the idea, because this all does consume staff time.
Well, no, I'm sorry.
It's okay. So basically what we could vote on tonight is either approve the members or not approve the members. And then we could ask for something to be agendized later, which means we could talk more about, approving 2 other members. My guess is it would probably come down to a council vote on the other 2 members. Just for the record, and I want to just for the record out there, and I know much of the council's done the same thing. When I got contacted, hey, I turned in an application, that sort of thing. My person that I would like to see on there had a lot of life experiences that I also had. And, went through whether it was dealings with the police or other issues like that. I never once said, hey, what's your politics? Hey, are you Republican or Democrat? That's not this council's place up here, is to decide who's a Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, left or right. We were looking for something specific on this agenda item that we're looking at now. So, and again, you know, that's at least from my point of view from the individual that I chose. So I don't know if anybody else has anything to say, but.
I'll say something. The person that I chose has the life experience of you know, when she's an African-American woman. Her grandparents were slaves. But I actually chose her because she is such, her intention is to learn how to speak about racism, for all of us to learn that. That's what we failed at in this country. We don't know how to speak to each other about racism without defending or attacking. And what I appreciated about her is that is her goal. And I think that that's true of actually many people on this who have already been assigned to this committee. So that's all.
Okay. Anyone else?
You know, I really, you know, really kind of resent that it's put forth as a political thing, or a political committee. To me, the whole idea is to become inclusive, to, you know, understand one another. And I think the more people that we can apply to that effort, the better. But, you know, I don't, you know, there's a lot of banding about First Amendment rights. Well, everybody has a right to speak out. And this gives some people an avenue they haven't had before. It's not like it's going to change the world. We're just trying to open up people's minds a little bit. So, so that's it.
Thank you, Councilmember Segerstrom.
And also I wanted to say, I thought my selection, you know, is that she's a vibrant, intelligent, articulate young woman. And also she's young, you know. I mean, I think we need people in the community that are going to be here for the long haul. And that can live with change. So.
And you actually spoke to something I've actually talked about very publicly before, which is the baby boomers with the Generation Xers versus the millennials. And there's a term now called Xennials. Yeah. And I kind of fit in that generation where, you know, mid to late 70s to very early 80s, we were all born. And sometimes it's very difficult, even in workplaces, to try to work together because we don't understand. So again, I think there's everybody on here I think was a really good choice. But again, that's my own personal opinion. Councilmember Garaventa, did you want to say anything?
No, I think I think we need to go ahead and put the 5 that we've already chosen on the parameters we've already put forth, and go ahead with the parameters of the committee, which I don't think anyone even spoke to, even in public comment or in discussion.
Isn't that coming second?
What's that?
Isn't that coming next?
Perhaps it is. Perhaps it is. I thought it was.
It's one recommendation.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's all together.
Oh, okay. Because I did want.
Because I don't think we're. I don't think. Are we? Well, anyway.
Well, but when
So-
Meryl spoke, she was told that would come up next. When Meryl asked about the.
Yeah. So we're gonna reopen public comment for that.
I didn't think so on that. I thought that would be something to be addressed along with this. That was my understanding.
So when Ms. Soto spoke, she asked about the outcomes. The council had not yet decided on the outcomes, so there was nothing for staff to convey about the outcomes. But yes, it is one full recommendation to vote on the members and to vote on the suggested outcomes.
Well, then we might want to talk about the suggested outcomes.
So I can read those out if everyone would like. That way maybe the public will understand. Everyone? Okay. So the below list are suggested outcomes for the council's consideration. Creation of a social equity committee mission and vision statement, creation of social equity resolution, review and possible update of city values statement, review and possible update of city policies on racial sensitivity, review of possible racial sensitivity training for city staff and city council, community partner engagement to ensure proper circulation of racial and diversity sensitive material for the community at large. All outcomes would be brought back to the council for review and final approval before implementation of any committee outcome. To me, I think that's still pretty broad in scope. It just gives us a direction to go.
So you asked me what my opinion was, and my opinion is pass these 5 now, pass these parameters, and agendize for the next meeting, decide whether we want to add 2 more or not.
Is that a motion?
I would like to speak before we
Absolutely.
to some of the goals. I would ask that we strike the review of possible racial sensitivity training for city staff and city council. One, this committee has no budget and there's no money available to do much of anything. Secondly, almost everybody I know or have talked with considers this as a requirement. If it's optional and voluntary, then that's cool. But if it's mandatory, it's the same as being told you're a racist. And that's pretty horrible. I mean, I really dislike it. I've been reading and trying to find out more about some of the things. What is it? Critical race theory is something that's very popular on the left and in the academy, and yet it's something that makes a lot of people locally here want to take up arms. You're told right off, all white people are racist, and there's nothing to be done about it. Essentially, you're going to be a horrible person for forever. That is something I will not subject our staff to, and I won't do it myself. If we have a local pastor who wants to, talk about this type of thing outside of that type of framework or white fragility, then I think that that's a nice option, but it should be optional. If somebody is a racist on our staff, they should just be fired. But I think we ought to strike this. It is bad for the community and it is incredibly divisive.
Mayor, if I could, I just as a reminder, because Marilyn has raised her hand. Meryl, sorry. Raise your hand again. Public comment's been closed, and so unless the council for some reason reopens it, we won't be taking any additional public comment. So I just want to.
Doug, I'm sorry. I think the mayor had said that we would be addressing this with Meryl to allow for clarification of her comment, because she had asked for specific outcomes, and I don't know if the mayor wants to allow for public to be brought back, but he did state that we would go into further detail about her questions.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember her question exactly.
The goal, what are you hoping to accomplish?
Oh yeah, the outcomes. Basically, I could say it just like this. These are the possible outcomes of what could happen. There are no outcomes yet because the committee is not yet met. But this is basically a general roadmap of the outcomes. And Councilmember Such and Councilmember Garaventa are on that committee. So I know, Councilmember Such, were you wanting to speak?
Can I just make one comment real quick? Because I want to make sure everybody understands the framework. This would be and can only be an advisory body to the city council. Any decision and recommendation that they make would be non-binding and of no legal effect. It would have to come back and be adopted by this council to have any effect, including the adoption of any kind of what we'd otherwise consider to be kind of a resolution or statement of intent. So I want to make sure that the public goes into this eyes wide open about what to expect. This body will meet. They may come up with some recommendations, but those recommendations in and of themselves, separate and apart from council action, will have no legal effect or binding effect. So I just want to make it really, really clear.
Thank you, Doug. Councilmember Such.
Excuse me. Actually, racial sensitivity training is pretty common in most workplaces. It's not a left conspiracy or anything. And I don't think, I mean, Mary Rose and Jim and I talked about rules of civility in this task force or committee. And if I were to call or to imply that someone in this committee is a racist, I will cancel the committee, because that is a huge
I
failure.
didn't say that.
Well, you
I
said to
if
call
our
people
staff-
a racist.
No, I said if our staff.
Well, who would call you? I'm not going to call your staff.
Well,
And I don't think you
what
can
I've
fire
seen-
someone. I mean, I'm not going to call anyone a racist, Mark. It's not the point.
I was watching a YouTube of one of the critical race theory professors, and I'm willing to say it. Maybe I just saw the 1 out of 1,000 that looks awful, but what I saw was appalling and as racist as anything that we want to get rid of. And I'll be happy to send you the link.
No, you don't get to send me links.
Okay.
So-
But the thing is, critical race theory is very popular on the left, and yet it seems to be a destructive poison from what I have seen. Admitting that I'm pretty ignorant about, I mean, we're happy up here. We don't need to try and solve some of Minneapolis's problems or that type of thing. And if we have racism that is being affected in our policies, in our departments, then yes, we want to know about it and eliminate it. But as soon as you start telling people, because you're white, you're a racist, heck, my daughter, who has studied sociology, this is the thing in the academy, we're all racist. I disagree. And that's something I think we ought to strike, because it is only going to cause division and discord. I would support the rest of it and would like to move to approve this, striking that one outcome.
So
which is review of possible racial sensitivity training for city staff and city council. Is that the one?
Yes.
Even though it says possible.
Yeah. Even though that every racial sensitivity training I've ever been to never said anything about that all white people are racists. I mean, I can find YouTube videos that can do anything and say anything.
I still don't want to compel people to go. I think it should be voluntary.
So I do have a question
I
about all
disagree.
this, because I mean, we're obviously on topic, but it's part of it, and it seems to be getting a little toxic. I'd like to put a break on it real quick. The question I've got is, most city staff or all city staff, at least during the time of orientation, and I believe every 2 years there's some other things,
There's
other training.
ethics training.
Yes,
I don't know
there's
if
ethics
I don't know if-
training.
Ethics and
AB
sexual
120.
harassment training.
Okay.
We do not have specific racial sensitivity training for our non-sworn staff. Now, remember, our sworn staff, when they go through Post, and California Post has stringent requirements, has required racial sensitivity training and other requirements as far as racial sensitivity for our sworn police officer staff.
Okay.
But for our non-sworn city hall staff, that is not something that is a requirement for city hall staff.
I will say it's scattered and mixed into the trainings, and examples are used. So I don't want to give the impression that it's not covered. I will say it's not the focus of the trainings.
I know that in the business world, there's a good bit of that. Jim, I know with working at Lowe's, there's a good bit of that. So, again, I just, again, before things start getting toxic here, because it's no need to do that. A lot of this already goes on, whether we realize it or not. A lot of this type of training. I mean, good ethics is being against racism. Good ethics is, condemning racism. That is good ethics. So, there's part of it there. I've seen a lot of the stuff out there, and I understand. Again, like I said, I can argue from both sides, but I don't know. I want to see what the council would like to do on this, but again, if we're already doing a lot of it, you know, my concern would be budgetary. Where will we be going from this? How much will we spend on extra training going in and that sort of thing? Those are my questions, and I think those are legitimate. So, looking for more. Councilmember Such.
Well, I mean, you know, obviously, if the council were to approve racial sensitivity training, and there isn't anything in it, but we haven't budgeted for it, you know, I mean, that will be decided down the road. That will be decided. You know, I think that racial or cultural sensitivity or racial sensitivity training that are actually pretty mainstream. It's not just like from the left, but if they are just folded into ethics or just folded into some other training, they're probably not as effective. And I don't think there's any racial sensitivity training that calls people racists. Maybe that used to be the case, but I think we've evolved a little bit beyond that. That's not effective.
Well, again, I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just asking legitimate questions about everything. Councilmember Segerstrom.
Well, I mean, I also think, you know, you're going from 0 to 60 here. I mean, the council, the committee hasn't even met, you know, I mean, maybe they won't, you know, even consider racial sensitivity training. This is for 7 people to hash out. I don't know whether it's, you know, it's such a big issue that's go or no go. I mean, it hasn't even met yet. So, you know, I mean, we are saying they're suggested outcomes. So do we really need to quibble about it right now?
Councilmember Garavena?
Oh, no, I was.
Okay, I thought you were going to say something.
Nope. I said what I was going to say.
So another question to our city attorney. Doug, I know your office handles a lot of this type of thing when it comes to racial sensitivity training. How much time and effort and basically coming down to budgetary concerns does this usually take if something like this was ever implemented?
Well, I mean, it depends on how you're doing it and how you're implementing it. So is it a video that we can have people watch? And so there's that method. If it's an in-person training, then that's going to be a lot more expensive, and it would be in the thousands of dollars. So, I mean, I suspect that it will span the gamut in terms of what you want and what would be required. So it could be relatively inexpensive from a production standpoint. Again, getting a video or something that people can watch on their computer or home or at the office on a computer versus an in-person training. Your real probably cost is going to come if you don't do an in-person training from the amount of time that you'll dedicate to having however many members of staff participate or watch the video. I'm going to assume it's going to be a video, right? But how much time you dedicate to that. So kind of like the lost man hours there. That'd be your biggest one. And how often you require it to be repeated. Like, you know, sexual harassment's every 2 years. Ethics is every 2 years. It has to be at least 2 hours. And now sexual harassment has to be everybody, including, you know, temporary employees. So it really, again, these are all the things that I think that if you're going to go down that, it's going to dictate how expensive it's going to be. There are less expensive ways of doing it, and there are more expensive ways of doing it.
I would assume, though, that the League of California Cities or the National League of Cities would have some sort of video that you've already developed to do some of this stuff. So I don't, you know.
The problem is that they may do it like one of the things, sometimes it's put online. A lot of it's done by the different law firms. And so they charge for those. So there may be something that's available. I don't know that it's going to hit the mark on what this committee may come up with, which is because a lot of these videos are on a very specific topic. It's not racial sensitivity in general. It may be on it may be targeted towards police and racial interactions, or it may be, you know, economic development and encouraging minority businesses. So you'll find those kind of specialized videos, but training, and it would be harder than I think you probably would think. But there'll be some vendor who you can buy that video from, right? That would probably work.
And Councilmember Such, I believe you.
I did, but I decided not to talk.
Okay. Okay.
Mayor Hawkins, I had a question for you, or just a comment, and it's regarding the meeting time. I heard you guys mention earlier that you were looking at the second and fourth Monday of the month for this committee to meet. Please keep in mind that the Planning Commission meets on the second Monday at 5:30 in the evening. So I would probably would be better if you did not conflict with that meeting time. Otherwise, people won't be able to participate if they'd like to. If something's on the agenda, or if staff might want to attend and they wouldn't be able to do that either.
Thank you, Rochelle.
Can I ask her a question?
Oh, yes, Councilmember Such.
Rochelle, how long does that meeting last? Is it an hour or two, a couple hours, an hour?
It does. It's just like the meeting you guys have. It might go 20 minutes. It might go 3 hours. I can't tell you.
All right, that's right. Okay.
Okay. Would any other members of council like to say anything? Okay, so I guess I'm looking for a motion.
Actually, I would like to ask Meryl if she got her question answered.
I apologize. We can do that, right, Doug?
I can do that.
I don't want to break the Brown Act.
Meryl, you've been asked to be unmuted, so she's available now, Mayor Paris.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you giving me the chance. I realize that maybe my question was a little bit premature, as the group hasn't had a chance to meet. And clearly, to me, I'll just say this one thing. From listening to the discussion, it seems really evident that some kind of sensitivity training would really be helpful, because I really hear in Mark's statements his reserve and discomfort, and I think it's really valuable for people to take a moment to consider how their experience may not be the same as somebody else's, and that learning about that is really helpful. It helps us to build empathy for one another. And I think that's what I'm hoping for here from this committee. And I appreciate that you're even considering this. This is really, it speaks well of us that as a community, with the diverse population we have and perspectives and the angst that everybody has, that we're willing to move forward by creating a group to address this kind of discomfort and to listen to the voices of people whose experience is different from our own. So I applaud the City Council for moving forward on this. I look forward to learning more about what their objectives are. And, I think we could all use a little bit of sensitivity training so that we understand each other better. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Okay. Jim, I really appreciate you asking that question back of her. So I guess I'm looking for a motion and a second.
Which you don't have.
Okay, so it dies for lack of a second. So I'm looking for another motion.
So I move to approve the selected members of the public as presented in the agenda report and the list of outcomes as provided, as shown in the agenda report.
Okay, so I got a motion from Councilmember Garavena.
I'll second.
A second by Councilmember Segestrom. And then I want to put out there really quick. Now, I've been on this council since 2010. I was obviously off for 2 years. But the one thing I can definitely say about non-sworn staff, and this sworn staff, like police officers, have to take racial sensitivity training, just throwing it out there. But I have never had a complaint given to me over racial bias of any sort. I just want to make that clear. I may have not got a call about it, but I want to make that clear. So, Councilmember Such?
Did you purposely leave off adding 2 people or agendizing is that not?
We can do that after the
Yeah.
So
motion,
that's
right?
not part of this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually forgot about that, but
Okay.
about agendizing that part, but I guess we can do that right after that, right?
We don't need a motion for that. That's just direction. I just want to make sure that we have at least 3 people, which I think based off of Councilmember Garaventa saying that he'd like to see if that would make 3. So that means that we'll bring it back at the next meeting.
To agendize it, yeah.
Okay, so Mary Rose, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Hawkins,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Plummer,
I'm going to vote aye, despite my distress over that one issue. I think that a unified council has value on this type of thing. And this is an issue where we do want to be united. Aye.
Councilmember Garaventa,
Aye.
Councilmember Segerstrom,
Aye.
and Councilmember Such.
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
This is 5-0 and bringing back
Yes.
the agenda.
Yes, so just for the public's knowledge, we will definitely be bringing back and agendizing, adding on 2 more members.
And Mayor, just to clarify, we'd also bring back the list of names to give you the option
Yes.
if you do expand it of making the appointment on that night, so everybody's really clear.
And just for
As I understand, I'm sorry, as I understand the direction that was given from council, if you do expand it, you're only looking at that list. So
that's what I was going to ask for clarification. Are you just looking at the list of candidates that submitted applications through August 21st, 2020?
If we're going to go that route, I would like to open it to new candidates. I think that's only fair to the community that would like to, participate.
I will say we had a thing with the planning commission appointment. This is a little while back, but before you were here, Mary Rose, and we actually reopened it back up because we were still looking for new members. And I honestly believe that would be fair. I mean, obviously we would still have these applications, but maybe open it up for another week or 2 so other people may apply.
So let me make a suggestion. I'm trying to think out loud a little bit, which is always dangerous. We could reopen up until the next meeting.
That would only be a week.
No, that's what I'm saying. But I think that's what the mayor was hinting at, is having it open for a very short period of time. Otherwise, what you would be doing is potentially creating 2 positions, and then you'd have to wait for another meeting at least, so another 2 weeks before you could appoint. Because I'm just thinking about how this would logically.
So I'm just saying, from a meeting management perspective, there's no way that we could open a meeting, or open an application process and have it agendized in enough time for a next meeting because of deadlines and on when to post agendas. So that would only give you maybe 2 days. But even without council member review.
That was kind of my point, is that what we would do is, after we discuss it at the next meeting, if we decide to go the direction of adding 2 more members, that we would open it back up to the public, keeping the applications that we'd already had, and then open it back up for, say, another week or 2 weeks, so that anybody else that would like to apply could come and apply. And by that time, we would already have it set up of how we would want to select the 2 members, because obviously if there's
more than 2 members.
No.
Yeah, so again, this would be part of the discussion, is the idea, Mark.
Yeah.
So we would talk more about that. So if we decide to open it up for 2 members, however we decide to do it, but it's still got to be agendized.
So I'm just looking for direction from the council on if we are, again, just using the applications, or if you're expanding the members that can apply. And then if the council so chooses, they allowed council member Such and Garaventa to determine the deadline of the last application, but, however the council dictates.
Yeah, my concern is just having to making sure it's an open and fair, what I would view to be fair democratic process. So if other people say, oh, well, I didn't apply because I didn't realize there were going to be more members, that sort of thing. That's just my opinion.
I mean, I don't want to delay this. I mean, and opening it up does delay it. And I don't think people don't apply because there are only 5 public members. I mean, if someone didn't apply, they didn't apply. I mean, everyone had a shot at being chosen. So I don't choose anything that's going to delay the process. So if we do open it up, although that's not my first choice, I would say for a week, it's enough. I mean, people could call the people they want on this committee and tell them to apply. That it's an application that takes less than 10 minutes to fill out. And my first
So Mayor,
choice
can I make a suggestion? Because these are all going to be, you all get to pick what you're going to do anyway at the next meeting. So we'll have one group of people who have currently applied. And you can appoint them at the meeting if you want to, because we'll put it on the agenda. We can have a second group that, as of right now, up until maybe noon of the meeting, we can accept and identify that group if anybody applies, right? And then you can see whether or not you want to consider any of those. And then if you're unhappy with those selections, then you can make the third choice, which is to add members or not, and then advertise for a couple of weeks and then come back for an appointment. You'd have all 3 options available to you at the next meeting. So what I'd like to do is just get an agendized item and give you as many options as you possibly can have. And then you all can deliberate and pick which one works best for you at the meeting.
that works for me.
Yeah, I think that's good. What's the consensus of the?
Okay.
Okay,
I
let's.
guess so.
Okay, so agenda is at the next. On the
Yes.
21st. Item brought up. Okay,
Agendize with all options.
yes.
Excellent. I just, like I said, and I think that the move on the council is this, we want to make sure everybody is treated equally and fair. So, okay. So under new business, consideration to assign the mayor's appointments to the city committees and community/government committees and commissions. Mary Rose.
So again, this was an item asked to be brought back before the council for adoption or approval of the mayor's selection of a new committee that's being developed within the county. It's a homelessness task force committee. We've only had one meeting. It's being put on by the county through their homeless coordinator, Kalea Brown. And at the time, when we were having this committee, they asked to ensure that there was enough member engagement. They're participating in this task force. There were elected county board of supervisors that were participating in this meeting. So we wanted to ensure that the city of Sonora has a voice on the table. And so the mayor has appointed 2 council members Such to participate in this countywide homelessness task force and selected himself, the mayor, as the alternate. Secondly, at the last meeting, Councilmember Such and Councilmember Sakerstrom asked if they could switch some of their committees. And so that is before you as well to approve the switching of Councilmember Sakerstrom to be on the Energy Action Committee and Councilmember Such being the alternate of that committee. And then also for Access to Tuolumne, having Councilmember Such act as the alternate and having Councilmember Sakerstrom not the alternate for Access to Tuolumne.
Okay, any council member discussion? I am very.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very happy that you're going to be our representative. And, I appointed myself an alternate, and I'm sure, I always get questions. So I try to answer that beforehand. So, 4 years ago, a little less than 4 years ago at this time, Doug, I remember you and I had a very frank discussion because I suddenly ended up, and I did everything right. I followed every law. I paid all my bills, did everything. And suddenly I had nowhere to sleep.
Yep.
And you know, it's a very interesting situation to be in. And by the way, any members of the public want to talk to me about it, I'll be more than happy to discuss it. But, you know, Councilmember Such, I know you have a big heart for the homeless, and I thank you for that. And I also know that the Energy Action Committee, Councilmember Segerstrom, I appreciate you taking this on, and
No, I've already charged forward.
I look forward to the great things that are coming out of that. And Access Tuolumne, Mark, I appreciate you, you know, being the city's voice on this, and you have a great alternate. And you know, again, I just really look forward to the, you know, how we're all moving forward. So,
But we miss Connie there.
oh, I miss Connie. I
Fantastic
miss
job.
Connie terribly. So, if no one has anything to say, I'll ask for public comment. Doug, is there anyone that has their hands raised?
Not at the moment, Mayor, but if you'd like to speak, please press *9 or use the raise your hand feature. Mayor, I do not see any raised hands. Let me check I don't see anybody profusely waving their hands either.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Councilmember Garaventa, second by Mayor Pro Tem Plummer. Mary Rose, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Hawkins,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Plummer,
Aye.
Councilmember Garaventa,
Aye.
Councilmember Segerstrom,
Aye.
and Councilmember Such.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Okay, consideration to approve resolution number 98-2020A, authorizing the submittal of an active transportation program grant, ATP grant, application for the Dragoon Gulch Connector Project, and authorizing the city administrator to execute the grant application and all associated documents. Mary Rose.
So this is just, I'm going to hand this over to your Community Development Director, Rochelle Kellogg. This was something that has already been brought before the council. So this is bringing it back before you for approval of the application. And with that, I'll turn it over to Rochelle Kellogg, your Community Development Director.
Thank you. Yes, in June, Council gave the staff direction to work with the TCTC on preparing an active transportation program grant application for the Dragoon Gulch Connector Project. TCTC subsequently amended their contract with Green Dot Transportation to prepare that application. I know that Tyler is with us tonight. I think Darren's on there too, and I imagine some of Green Dot is here as well. I will say that it is a connector that will connect Bonanza, and it runs crosses over Woods Creek on the Seventh-day Adventist property, and then runs along the creek and connects up with Woods Creek Park, and then out to Stockton Street. We did make some changes from what you saw originally in that there was a concern both by city staff as well as the TCTC and consultant that we were showing this as a connector from the fairgrounds and other areas, Southgate and other areas, but there really isn't a real safe way to cross Stockton Street. And we know that we've had issues down there as well as pedestrian safety along that street. So we did expand the project to include a multi-purpose pedestrian and bike path along Stockton Street down to the end of the commercial area. It includes a new crosswalk cutting over to the fairgrounds to the livestock entrance to hopefully direct pedestrians to two ways to cross from when they're leaving the fairgrounds. And some pedestrian lighting is also included, flashing lighting included as part of the project. The pedestrian and multi-purpose path will not affect parking for our businesses along Stockton Street. There is enough road area for that to occur. And with that, I'm going to give it over to Tyler so he can talk a little bit more about the application and if we are successful, the city would be looking at a partnership with TCTC to get the project underway. Tyler, it's all yours.
Doug, could we ensure that Somerset is unmuted?
Yep.
We're listening, Tyler.
He's probably talking.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Well, we appreciate you considering this active transportation program project. I think when we saw you last in August, we committed to spending some more time on it, working through some of the details of the project, and then bringing it back to you just to make sure that we got everything right before we submit to the state's active transportation program. We believe that we have done that. We've worked with Green Dot, which is our consultant who had been working on the active transportation plan, who has put together the application itself, and another consultant, Wood Rogers, who has taken the project to 10% design, which has helped us to work through, can the path fit in all the areas that we'd like it to? Can we work, around the ball field and work with the existing within the existing rights of way. So at this point, even though we don't have, a fully developed project, I think we have put it to a place where we have developed some costs for the application and for the program. At this point, we have met with some of the key project stakeholders, including we did a public meeting, virtual public meeting with the community. We met on site with some of the private property owners, including the Sonora Community Estates, and also a family that owns the ditch that runs through that property. We worked closely with City Council your city staff to make sure that we weren't affecting parking along Stockton Road, and we were being conscientious of kind of the project pieces. So I don't know, we are prepared to kind of give you a visual tour of the project. If you wanted to, allow me to share my screen, I'd be happy to do that. I don't know if that was included in the agenda packet materials. If it is, obviously that's unnecessary, but if not, it kind of
Might be good for the public anyway.
Not if it freezes like that.
You're frozen, Tyler.
Oh, Tyler, you're frozen. Come back.
Wi-Fi fail.
So in your packet, we did include photographs that kind of show and photo simulations of the walking path as it progressed from the beginning.
She's freezing.
Over on the corner, and then progress that they are proposing. So that was included in your packet.
Very exciting.
Yeah. Is Tyler back there yet, or is he still frozen?
I think he probably went off and is going to try to come back on, it looks like.
'Cause I'll take these pictures up and show them on the screen just so that this is a really cool project.
And these pictures were included in the packet, so members of the public were able to view all of this packet.
Online.
Cool.
And just for the members of the public, just in case you weren't able to view, they are online under our council, city council agenda, under the agenda packet. And this is item 6 in our agenda, and those pictures are attached along with the item.
Yeah, and they're actually easier to see online.
Is Rochelle frozen too?
Tyler, can you hear us?
Tyler's frozen. Rochelle's frozen.
I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Okay, great.
Yes.
I wanted to address I guess an issue, it's not really germane to just this project, but when we have projects like this, many of them have been without these type of photos and renderings, and they are incredibly helpful for me to envision something where without it, I can imagine almost anything or maybe nothing. And I would like to applaud you for this packet and hope that when it's not too expensive that we can continue to do that in the future.
And I will also say that our new agenda management system has allowed us to incorporate these pictures in the clearest possible way for the public to be able to view. So
it's pretty incredible.
They're really
Tyler,
nice.
are you able to share your screen? You should be able to.
Okay, thank you. Yes, let me pull that up here. Let's see. One moment here. Okay, can you see this now?
Yep.
We can see it now.
Excellent. So this is a section that would go along, the Woods Creek Park here. So this would be within the city-owned property there, and you can see Woods Creek coming through. This is kind of the traditional cross-section, but we feel like, with the graphics, we can really enhance this and give folks a much better idea of what they'd actually be looking at and experiencing. So as you can see here, this is like an 8 or a 10-foot wide path that would allow, users to comfortably walk in either direction, whether they are, with a dog or on a bike. And we feel like this type of facility really is most appropriate for that area. Here we show again the 8-foot wide section that goes around the corner of the fence here for the ball field. Again, I think we were able to work with the ball field in its existing configuration without having to mess with that at all. That is one of the reasons why the cost of the project has escalated a little bit, is because we will have some type of either a bridge there or some type of a cantilevered trail section that will eliminate having to move the ball field. Of course. See here. Now I've lost my, one moment here. Seem to have lost my cross-section imaging there. Oh, there it is. I'm going to reshare this one moment. Let's see.
It's the joys of Zoom.
Well, of course, everything worked flawlessly till it was my turn, huh? So again, this is along Bonanza here. This is coming the section between Snell and actually entering the property. Sorry, we're kind of skipping around here. Oh no. And it's not going to allow me to seamlessly move through these, I'm afraid.
Stop.
Well, it was a good idea, and I'll continue to share a few of those as we talk through these. But I think, we've having those illustrations and knowing that they're available on the city website really will help members of the public and those who have questions about the project, get a much better feel for exactly what the proposals are, how it'll work, and what they'll be kind of experiencing. And, this section in particular, right across from the fairgrounds, I mean, this is a section that, will really benefit, I think, from having a path that will allow folks to, access the fairgrounds and the many events and activities that happen there year round. There's a lodging establishment that's just out of sight of this view, and a fitness gym and other businesses, and this will really allow for some good access through there. So because we're having some issues, I won't continue to go through all those, but I did want to share, at this point, our overall project cost is roughly, $4.5 million, and that gives us some contingencies to make sure we have enough funding to get through the environmental process, to have some type of a project management team that is supported. One of the things we talked about, I think, last time at the city council meeting was, just the current workloads of city staff, and that we wanted to be sensitive to that. So I think that's one of the questions that we have, along with, submitting this project is, would you like city staff to be the lead? And I know that our executive director, Darren Grossi, is also in the meeting. We have talked about, if the city wanted the TCTC to be the lead, that is both agencies are eligible. But overall, I think we're at a point now where the applications will be due on September 15th. That's next week already. And so we are looking for direction to submit this application and on who, would be the project lead. And not that even if city staff moves forward, I think there are different arrangements that we can collaborate on to make sure that, if we get funded for this project, no one's left, with a workload that's unsustainable. So with that, I will send it back to city staff or, ask Aaron if there's anything he'd like to add.
So I think from what Tyler was speaking to in regards to TCTC lead versus city staff lead, and I know Rochelle wants to speak to this as well, the ability for staff to manage this project is beyond our capacity at this point. And so what city staff is recommending is that we have a consultant that really takes the lead and manages this project for us, with only 2 people in community development on top of our other, projects that we're looking at this point. It really is beyond the scope of what I can allow my staff to lead the way on. And I know, Rochelle, if you want to add anything to that, but, again, we only have two staff members in community development. And while this is a great project, and I know that council members, are looking forward to a project like this, it really will take a quite significant amount of staff time. And so we are looking to see that cost will allow us to have a consultant manage this project.
Versus TCTC?
Versus the city.
Versus the city leading it. Versus the city using staff, as Rochelle, managing and leading this project. We would really need consultants to be able to manage this project at this point.
Did you imply that that's included in that would be potentially included in the grant then?
Well, we would want to make sure from a city perspective that the grant application includes funding.
Yep.
If TCTC is not going to take the lead, then the grant application includes funding to allow us to have a consultant to lead this project for us, because it is beyond the capacity of our community development staff at this point.
And it would be a shame not to do it.
And is there a problem with TCTC taking the lead on it? On the project? I guess I'm not
as
understanding.
Opposed to a consultant? You mean as opposed to a consultant?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I'm not understanding why a consultant is a better option than TCTC.
Than having TCTC do it. Maybe.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I got booted off and then I had to reboot and then I couldn't talk, so I'm back again. Sorry about that, guys. What we have in our staff report is what I would recommend that we go with at this time. What I put in here, it's the last sentence. It says, if awarded, the city and TCTC will work together in partnership with a construction management consultant to complete the project. I think that's the best approach, where the city and TCTC work together. I want you guys to keep this in mind. As you know, I have been very honest with everybody. Down the road, I will be looking at retiring. These Caltrans projects take a lot of expertise and they're very complicated. I think and I know that Tyler and Darren and I have talked about this as well as the consultants. I believe they padded that budget as much as they can to make sure that there's money in there so the TCTC and the city can acquire a consultant. And then with the oversight of both agencies to make sure it progresses through with the best interest of both agencies in getting the project done. That would be my recommendation, and that's what we just put in the staff report.
And this $4.5 million budget includes this management consultant.
It does. They have put as much as they can in to cover those costs. So that shouldn't be an issue. But I highly recommend, as this project moves forward, whether I'm still around, or you have somebody new, that you go ahead and use consultant services with oversight by city staff and the TCTC staff. Because to have staff run these projects with everything else that they have to do, it is very difficult.
Okay, Councilmember Such.
Is there a design, and I didn't see a design for the bridge, and I just think bridges can be architecturally interesting and beautiful, and they can also be kind of ugly. Has anyone talked, how big is this bridge? I know it's just crossing Woods Creek. Is it a pretty, I'm just curious. I didn't see a bridge.
Yeah.
Tyler, I don't know if they got to that much detail at the 10% plans.
Yeah, I think we know we'll need some kind of a structure, whether it crosses the creek and then returns, or it is kind of articulates out across the creek slightly to protect the corner of the ball field. I think some of those details will be worked out in the environmental document when we know exactly how much room we have to work with within the riparian zone. So I think the budget reflects that, but the graphics do not. But I think certainly, we will be very conscientious of designing something that is not only functional, but is aesthetically, pleasing as well, so that it's, nice to look at as well as walk on.
So keep in mind, just like all the other projects that we've been working on, you'll have plenty of opportunities to view the project as it progresses through the plan stages. And those details become more and more clear as the plans progress. And you'll be able to comment and make recommendations back to the consultant to make any changes that you would like to see.
Okay. Oh, Councilmember Such.
And just on, and this is probably for, I guess this is for Rochelle. On the city council agenda report, I don't think that there's an error here. I just can't visualize what this is talking about. And it's the last paragraph, and it says, as shown in the attached 10% engineering design and photo simulations, the proposed multi-use path would start at the south end of the commercial area along the north side of SR 49. Is that really
Correct.
the south end? It's not the west end?
No, it kind of meanders southwesterly as it goes. But yeah, it is more southern at that location. But Stockton Road does kind of meander that way. It goes at a southwesternly locate as it wanders down back into Highway 108.
Okay. All right.
But that is the location.
Okay.
Before I turn it over to public comment, any other council members?
Fabulous.
Okay.
Great.
Then I would like to ask for public comment at this time.
All right, Mayor, if anybody would like to speak, please use the *9 function or the raise your hand button on the PC, or I guess any kind of computer, tablet, and smartphone.
Or just wave your hand in front of the screen.
Yeah, and Mayor, I don't see anybody waving their hand or raising their hand.
Okay, so we'll bring it back to the council.
Move to approve resolution number 0908 2020-A.
Second.
Okay, before I ask for a roll call vote, I wanted to throw something out there as a suggestion. And this may have to go to the Parking and Traffic Commission, but I see on our, I guess it's the front page of the Jamestown to Columbia corridor map, it shows two crosswalks right here at Snell Street and Bonanza. I would like to see it come before the Parking and Traffic Commission of a possible use of a stop sign for the right turn. And it has to go to that and then go to the council and everything else. But I think you're putting a crosswalk where there could be potential accidents, and something like that may help stop the accidents.
So are you talking about Snell Street as it turns the corner?
Yes. Yes, and I actually just.
Going from west to north?
Yes. And just so the council is aware, I received a very strong complaint, nice gentleman that lives on Snell Street, as I used to, about the speeding. And, you know, again, not looking for that decision now, obviously, but something that would go to the Parking and Traffic Commission for a possible stop sign to stop, you know, stop before you go up type of thing.
So I would recommend that if you want to do that, that you guys get something to Mary Rose to get it on the Traffic Commission agenda now. Keep in mind that this project's probably not going to be constructed for 3-4 years from now. So if that's an issue now, probably move forward and don't wait for this project for that to be taken care of.
Okay, ditto. Okay, so I got a motion and a second.
Mayor Hawkins?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Plummer?
Aye.
Councilmember Garaventa?
Aye.
Councilmember Sagerstrom?
Aye.
And Councilmember Sutton? Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Mary Rose, if you could get signatures tonight, so that we can, this has to be up there by Monday, so that way we have original signatures on that resolution, that'd be really helpful.
Got it.
Okay, under new business, item number 7, consideration to approve an amendment to the memorandum of understanding between the City of Sonora and Give Someone a Chance, and authorize the city administrator to execute the amendment to the agreement.
So again, this was an item that was asked to be brought back, that was approved by the council. In 2019, in August of 2019, the council approved a memorandum of understanding, or MOU, would give someone a chance to provide funding for portable toilets at Camp Hope. Camp Hope is a homeless encampment on Stockton Road. Although it is in the city of Sonora proper, it is actually land that is within the county of Tuolumne. At the time in 2019, those funds, that was approved, and those funds were dedicated for those portable toilets, and it was $1,750 that was approved at the time, and it was also approved for 1-year funding. Back in August, the council approved to bring an amendment forward to extend that MOU for an additional year and to extend additional funding for those portable toilets. So the item before you, and I will say that there is a mistake in the name of the organization within the council agenda report, and I apologize for that. It says in the second paragraph, give someone a change, it's give someone a chance, and that was just a mistake. But the amendment is correct in that it allows for an extension of the term. So there's 2 corrections to the actual MOU, an extension of the term for an additional year, and also an increase to the total compensation of the MOU from $1,750 to $3,500. So at this time, I'm asking for authorization to approve the amendment with the MOU, give someone a chance.
Okay, Councilmember Such.
The $3,500 for 2 years is assuming $1,750 a year. It's actually $1,900 a year.
And it was in the discussion I had with, it's $1,900. Okay, so my discussions with Hazel Mitchell did not say $1,900 a year. So that was not the discussions I had with her in developing the amendment. So if that is a correction, then I would have to bring back an additional amendment.
Yeah, it's 1,900. I mean, I have I don't know why she didn't tell you that. And I just will say that our other donors, ATCA agreed to pay $1,900 for a year. And I met with Nikki Coleman, and Nikki thought that Sonora Regional might be able to help us. They weren't sure that that was the right fit for them, but she connected us to Love Tuolumne. And Love Tuolumne actually has already sent, Hazel Mitchell already has the check for $1,900 for a year. I would actually just given the nature of the camp and the complications there, I would actually personally not mind just offering $1,900 for a year instead of $3,500 or even $3,800 if we were going to increase it to $1,900 a year for 2 years. I mean, I think it's fine to visit this every year because I think there's an instability in the camp, and I wouldn't mind just doing it annually. I don't think it, unless that takes just
So
a whole lot of stuff.
So the way that the MOU is written, it requires authorization to, unless we want to, rewrite the amendment or rewrite the MOU, it requires authorization to extend beyond the year and to extend the payment or the amount of total compensation. So if the direction from council is to go back and to extend the term for a different length of time or to extend the total compensation, then that's something we can do. I will say that the amount that is budgeted and approved by the council in the budget is $1,750 for this year. That is in the budget for fiscal year 2021.
May I ask
Oh, absolutely.
So if we decided to approve $3,500, could that all be spent in 1 year?
So the way that it's asking is you've already spent the $1,750 because the term of the contract started in 2019. So the amendment changes the term. The term of the contract began in 2019. So it's granting the extension of the term from 2019 to 2021. So it's a 2-year term. And then it's increasing the total compensation over that 2 years from $1,750 to $3,500. We've already spent $1,750 from year 1. So what is remaining of that is $1,750.
I'm sorry, that's not how I read it at all. One other question that I would have, or that I thought, that I'm wondering if we should add, is if Camp Hope is closed, would give someone a chance, refund money that hadn't been spent to the city just figure out how, because I think it's like $480 a month or something for those toilets. So, and we pay a third of it. If we don't deposit $1,900, I'm going to stick with that because that's what it is, into their account, but Camp Hope closes, what happens with the balance?
And I can defer to Chris, but as far as as far as what I'm looking at the MOU, there's no clause that says if it closes, we would refundable the portion, but that's something we can always include in the MOU and amend the MOU for that language. In fact,
or at least come back to the council. The council should decide what's going to happen with the balance of those funds, I think.
And Chris Gorski, our Administrative Services Officer, do we receive one bill to pay, or is it a monthly bill that we pay to give someone a chance? Because if it's monthly, then we would be paying as a monthly, but I don't know if it was just a straight
I think it was one.
Yeah, we pay once a year to them, the $1,750.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah, so the way contracts are written is you give the total compensation amount over the term of the contract. So since the term of the contract is 2 years, and the total compensation for that contract is $3,500. And since we already paid the $1,750 for the first year, we would have $1,750 remaining on this contract.
That makes sense to me. Now, I got confused about it also, so.
Colette, if Camp Hope were to close, the people are going to be going somewhere. Wouldn't we just as likely want to repurpose them to a different place?
Absolutely, but I think we should say that.
Okay.
I think it should be the council's to say.
Right. Well, right. We want to be in charge of our participation. I see that.
And certainly we would want to work with Hazel Mitchell,
Oh,
give
right.
someone a chance about that. But I just don't know what's going to happen there. It wasn't an issue for me last year, but it feels different now.
I haven't been down there, or I haven't even driven down Stockton since the fire. Has it changed much, or?
I haven't been there.
Oh, okay.
I haven't been there either.
I'm looking up the 4, so I'm going the other way.
Okay, any other council comment before I ask for public comment? Okay, Doug, public comment.
Mayor, if anybody would like to make a comment, please hit *9 if you're on your phone, or use the raise your hand feature if you're using your computer, tablet, or smartphone. And there's no hands raised, Mayor.
Okay, so I'll bring it back to the council. Any other additional comment or looking for a motion in a second?
Doug, I'm sorry, Mayor, Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Absolutely.
Doug, could they make a motion on to change the amendment to include the increase of compensation?
I mean, they can make a motion to increase the compensation, but they'll still have to vote on a budget amendment.
That's what I was just, yeah, the budget would be changed.
I mean, but you can include it as part of the motion, but just, again, but that's just an authorization, but their money won't be funded without the budget. It'd be unfunded until such time. So you granted the money up to a certain amount, but it's not funded, so you have to do the budget adjustment to do that. And that'd have to be by separate motion on a different agenda. Probably be a consent item.
Are we talking about $150?
Yes, but our budget is so tight.
No.
Yeah.
Well, why doesn't the city just pay $17.50? I'll make a donation of $150 to give someone a chance for the city. I don't want, I mean, just so you don't have to make a budget
So you
adjustment.
would still need to make a budget adjustment because the budget line item is $17.50. So we still have to make that adjustment regardless of whether or not we donate the money or we increase the budget amount by using reserve. It still requires a council approval of that budget adjustment.
No, she personally spends it's her personal money.
Oh, you want to spend it direct, you want to give it personally?
Yeah, you just
to
would
give
send,
someone a
give someone
chance? Okay,
chance.
I didn't even,
Money.
I thought, I'm sorry, I
thought I was giving it to
misunderstood, giving it to the city to give to them, okay.
No, they're a 501c3. It's a tax deduction if I send it to them. So
Yeah,
I'll just do
I'm
that just to
happy
keep it.
split it with you.
Okay, great.
It's really cool. Thank you.
Just to keep it simple.
Well, it's an important part of public health right now.
It's, and I just want to thank.
Go ahead. Well, the only thing I would say is, as I said last year, it'd be nice if the county was a participant as well.
Yeah.
You know,
I asked them.
I mean, really and truly,
All the housing money comes through them. So they're the almost.
As my mom used to say, if wishes were horses, beggars would ride.
Okay, so looking for a motion and a second.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Do I have to say one?
Just staff recommendation or
Yeah.
approve the amendment to the MOU.
Yeah.
Okay, so motion by Councilmember Such, second by Councilmember Garaventa. Mary Rose, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Huckins,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Plummer,
Aye.
Councilmember Garaventa,
Aye.
Councilmember Singerstrom,
Aye.
and Councilmember Such.
Aye. I just want to thank the council and city staff for supporting this. It's dear to my heart, but it's not, it can be somewhat controversial. So thank you all.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention. Okay, so under new business, item number 8, consideration to approve a letter of intent to collaborate with the County of Tuolumne and local fire districts within the county to prepare a fire parcel tax measure for a special election in 2021.
So, as we are aware of the last couple of years, we've heard about the economic hardships of the county is facing. We've heard, the last couple of fiscal years that they have been running into fiscal deficits in funding essential county services. And one of those essential county services that they're looking at a potential deficit in funding is county fire services. And as I'm sure many of the council members are aware, county fire services is really integral and really going hand in hand with our city fire services and our total fire district services through countywide. The city of Sonora does have a mutual aid agreement with the county that we provide assistance for calls within our sphere of influence or within our area in which the city can respond to. And those numbers of calls that the city of Sonora responds to within the unincorporated area of the county is actually within your agenda packet here. So as if you've been listening to some of the Board of Supervisors meeting, they have talked about different scenarios in which they can bring additional revenue to the county to provide essential county services. And one of those recommendations, and it was just the last couple of weeks, was to create a collaboration between the county and the city and the fire districts to look at a fire parcel tax in order to provide essential fire services within the county of Tuolumne. So the item before you is asking the council, and this is really a transparent vote, if you will, of the council to allow the public to know that there are conversations being had between city staff and county staff to look at a mechanism to potentially bring forth a fire parcel tax. What we are asking the council to approve is to allow staff to collaborate with the county of Tuolumne and the county fire districts to look at a mechanism to potentially bringing forth a fire parcel tax. So this only allows us the ability as staff to start working with the county and looking at ways to develop a fire parcel tax. When the county brought up the idea of a potential fire parcel tax, the fire districts, the city of Sonora voiced some concern because of the way that fire parcel tax could potentially be represented for the voters. You would have, if the fire districts wanted to put something forth or the city of Sonora wanted to bring something forth, you could potentially have 9 different ballot measures that each individual voter would be voting on because of the different taxing entities and the legal ramifications of those taxing entities on the ballot. So this item, again, is to look at a mechanism in which both the county and the city and also the fire districts can collaborate as one taxing authority to bring forth one ballot measure for the voters. Again, what the county looked at and what city staff has been talking with the county is the most easiest way that we're looking at to do this in the most time efficient manner is to develop a JPA or a joint powers authority for a taxing authority only, so would not create any type of employees created to that JPA. I know. It would simply give a taxing authority as one collaboration between all the different jurisdictions to bring a ballot measure forward and then disperse those taxes amongst the different jurisdictions so that the voters would not be confused on the different ballot measures, but would have one ballot measure to be able to look at and potentially vote for. Again, this does not give authority to say that the city of Sonora is going to be going after a fire parcel tax. This merely allows staff to start working with the county and the fire districts. It provides a letter of intent to the county that we will potentially be looking with them, collaborating with them, and looking at the creation of a JPA for that taxing authority. The creation of the JPA, what that JPA would look like, obviously would have to come back to the council for approval before anything would be created. So the JPA would come back for creation and approval. And then obviously the fire tax, whether or not the council approves of a fire tax to be put on the ballot, would ultimately come back for final approval of the council before it goes on the ballot. So again, this is not putting a tax on the ballot. This is simply allowing staff the ability to work with the county at looking at the potential of a fire parcel tax. And that's what we're asking the council to approve. I know it's a lot of kind of confusing information, and the county has spent a great deal of explaining it to the board members and to the community at large. What I will say is, the city really plays an integral role and a woven role with the county in fire services. And, you know, fire prevention, whether it's done at the county level or at the city level or at the district level, you have to have a united front between all of those jurisdictions to provide essential fire services for the county at large. And because we do provide mutual aid assistance for the county, if the county were to go forth with a tax, and the city potentially did not join, they could be receiving additional revenue, and we would still be providing those services in the unincorporated area with no additional revenue to support that. Again, that's for discussion down the road. This is simply just allowing the county to know that, hey, we are interested in collaborating with you and interested in discussing a potential fire parcel tax for the county, the overall county of Tuolumne.
A lot of our constituents will be rather interested in is with the new potential tax that we'd be talking about only be for the unincorporated areas of the county? That would also be Sonora.
So this would be, so that's a good question, because what's the point of the creation of a JPA? And really the creation of the JPA is to allow the different taxing jurisdictions, so the city and the districts and the county, to create this one entity so that those taxes would be recuperated through the county treasury and then dispersed through all of those jurisdictions. So yes, the city of Sonora residents would be paying, if the council so chooses and it goes through, they would be paying a tax, a parcel tax, and those monies would be received to the city of Sonora. So it would depend on where your parcel is within the county of Tuolumne. It simply just gives the ability for us to create one entity for a taxing purpose. So it would not be just the unincorporated.
Right. Okay,
area.
that's thank you.
So your parcel, if it's in the city, that money goes, that parcel tax goes to the city. If it's it's in Columbia Fire District, it goes to Columbia Fire District. If it's in Groveland, GCSD, it goes to the Groveland District.
Question was, is it essentially a new tax, I guess?
It would be a new tax.
Would be a new tax, and that's, thank you.
I will say, sorry, Councilmember Garaventa, just to add a little bit more clarification. If we do not collaborate,
right,
and the county of Tuolumne goes forth with a tax, the citizens of Sonora would still vote on that measure, but would not receive any benefit of that. They would not pay for it, and they would not receive any benefit of it. And it's just simply because of some, case law that's come down recently. But if there is that collaborative front, not only would they vote for it, they would receive, they would pay the tax and they would receive the additional services as well. And there's still a lot to work out. There's still a lot to work out on this. It's just simply to allow us to communicate with the county on this.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sach.
So I'm just curious about to that end, it is our intent to and share the cost of the special election based on the number of registered voters in our district. Why wouldn't we share the cost based on the number of parcels in our district?
Because I believe, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, the way that special elections are, the cost of special election is by the number of registered voters, and that's county.
It is the number of registered voters, and it's between $1 and $2 per voter.
Yes,
and so the county will be paying. The county's cost will also be per number of registered voters.
Okay, yes. And the districts as well. So the districts would pay for their registered voters.
Okay,
yeah, and so
that's how everyone pays. Okay,
yes.
I just couldn't make any sense.
Okay. Councilmember Sagestrom.
Do we have any estimate about the city staff time that would be relegated to this effort?
I will say that it's going to be mostly city attorney and myself time, and we have already been working with the county a little bit on this just to get an idea to bring forth something to the council. I can't tell you a specific number, but it's going to be, it will be a lot. It will be a lot of staff time. And the reason being is because of the timeline needed to get this done. So you've got the creation of the JPA that potentially you're looking at somewhere in early spring to be able to create that JPA, in order for the county is looking at somewhere in June to have the special election. So there's a lot that needs to get done within that timeline.
Well, it looks like the city supports the county. I mean, 1/3 of the calls go to the county.
Yeah.
And that's why,
That
that's
is
why
impressive.
between the fire chief and myself, we thought it necessary to show the council that, there is a lot that the city provides to the county. 1/3 of our calls, we provide, fire calls, and we do that as a cost to the city, so.
So just say that one more time. I just, so the public is clear.
It is a cost to the city.
Yep, but 1/3 of our calls we do in the county, and we're glad to do that. I mean, if your neighbor's house is on fire or your neighbor gets in a car wreck, you don't say, oh, gee, I'm not going to put their fire out because they're not paying the water bill. We're very glad to do that and very glad we're working things out, but 1/3 of our calls are in the county.
Yes.
So before I open up to public discussion, any council members? Any other council members? Okay. Doug, do we have any hands raised?
We did, but it looked like looks like Thomas took his hand down. We have one from Chief New, I believe.
Oh, excellent. Chief New, we're listening. We're still listening, Chief New.
Oh, I think she took it down.
Is there anyone else?
Nope, she's back on. Hold on. I think she just got to unmute herself. And Thomas's hand is back up, Thomas Silva. So let me ask maybe we'll take him off, and if the chief.
How about now?
There you go.
Okay, you guys can hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to thank Mary Rose and the city council, and city council as in the attorneys that have started this process with the county. It's extremely important with the fire services in Tuolumne County as a whole. None of the organizations can operate individually. It takes all of us to complete a major incident in the county. Most of the fire districts and the city are one station. And so to have enough staff to provide those services on scene, it takes multiple fire engines to respond to just one individual residential structure. So it's really important that we do a collaborative effort. The ongoing costs of the fire service increases year after year after year. We're still trying to play catch up from the 2008 financial crisis of losing a full-time fire inspector, the third full-time engineer on one of our shifts. And so hopefully this collaboration with a tax parcel moving forward would allow us to fulfill those positions in the future, especially with the deficit of COVID-19 as well in the budget, allow those tax measures to be placed on the ballot and let the voters decide if those services are warranted for them to vote yes on that ballot measure. So I just wanted to say thank you for considering this, and I hope we do move forward.
Thank you, Chief. You said Thomas Silva was next?
I did. I'm going to unmute him right now, Mayor.
Thomas, we are listening.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Hey, I'd like to, I'm all for this for public safety. I think it's huge. Anytime we can do anything, especially, hard-earned local businesses and their tax money going to something, as important as public safety. If you don't pass this is a no-brainer. So in my opinion, I would pass this one. The other thing, and just because we're talking about taxes and such and allocating money and for the homeless and, that's a big deal, $17.50 or whatnot to go to the homeless camp. But, let's just keep
Thomas,
that in
I hate
mind
to-
all this month.
Thomas,
Oh.
I hate to interrupt you, buddy. We're just talking about this particular one with the fire
Right,
parcel
but
tax.
I'm saying, what I'm saying is, if we gear more towards public safety as this measure would, I think it's a big deal. And so, anyway, I'm all for it. Good job. Thanks.
Thanks, Thomas.
Mayor, you have another one, Darren, and I may butcher this one. Duez?
Oh, yes. Go ahead, Darren. We're listening.
Does any of this supplement CAL FIRE?
So I will say that the current contract that the county has for fire services, and Chief New, please correct me if I'm wrong, but the current contract that the county has for services is with CAL FIRE. However, the city of Sonora has its own fire department, and we do not have a CAL FIRE contract. So if the council so chooses, again, this item is not for putting a tax measure on right now, it's just for the collaborative effort between the county and the city. If the council so chooses to put a fire tax on for the public to decide, the city of Sonora residents would be paying a tax solely for the benefit of the city of Sonora Fire Department, which is not a CAL FIRE contract.
Understandable. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Is there anyone else?
And Chief New raised their hand again.
Oh, Chief New, the fire chief for the city of Sonora.
Trying to unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, no, she had asked for me to clarify if that was wrong, but no, she was correct. So sorry, I was trying to unmute myself or mute myself again, but I wasn't able to. So that is correct. The money would not be going to CAL FIRE for the tax measure for the city.
For the city.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Mary Rose, thank you.
That's all
Any
I see.
other public comment?
I don't see anything else, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Okay, let's bring it back to the council for more discussion and or motion.
Go ahead, Jim.
I move to approve the letter of intent to collaborate with the County of Tuolumne and the local fire districts within the county to prepare a fire parcel tax measure for a special election in 2021.
I still have a question for Mary Rose.
Okay,
Can we
let's
get a second?
see if there's a second and then we'll have more discussion.
I'll second.
Okay, so motion by Councilmember Garaventa, second by Councilmember Such, and then Mayor Pro Tem, you had a question.
Yes. Mary Rose, ma'am. Okay, my understanding is this is in order to start talking with the county, and that then probably precludes having any idea how much per parcel that we're talking about.
Correct. So
Okay.
right now, I know the county kind of talked about it
Yep.
at their last meeting about, the different mechanism. Do you do a flat rate per parcel? Do you do some sort of look at commercial versus residential? I know there was also discussion on square footage cost. Those would be all up in the air as we start collaborating
Right.
and talking about how that would look.
Okay, thank you. That was because we're supporting something completely different from a tax at this juncture still.
Yes, it's simply the intent to
Right.
to
Start talking. with them.
start talking with the county.
Thank you very much.
Transparency item for the public.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second. So any other questions? Okay, roll call vote, Mary Rose.
Mayor Hawkins,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Plummer,
Aye.
Councilmember Garaventa,
Aye.
Councilmember Sagerstrom,
Aye.
and Councilmember Such.
Aye.
Okay. No more new business. So now we have council member and department head reports. I'll start off with the police chief. Is he on there?
Any out of town?
No, but his lieutenant, Glenn Roberts, is on.
Oh, Glenn is there.
Is he
Glenn-
still on? Maybe he went off. I think he might have went off.
Okay. Okay, so we'll go to Fire Chief New. Do you have anything else?
Let's see if I can unmute myself. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Just wanted to give an update. Obviously, we are socked in with what we would hope would be fog, and it's not. It's been smoke. There's numerous fires in the state, as everyone is aware. We did send out Captain Rhodes as a fire line EMT up north to help out with the California Fire Master Mutual Aid, and we have everyone backfilling behind him here. So we just want to keep him in our thoughts while he's out on the fire line, and the rest of the firefighters that are out there trying to put everything out. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, is Rochelle still on?
Yes, she is. She's waving.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Rochelle.
Sorry, I keep having to come on and off. Frontier, great internet I have here. I don't have anything. Sorry. I don't have anything other than we do have a planning commission meeting on Monday night. Hopefully the power holds out and we don't have to cancel ours. We do have 3 items coming forward. We are busy just moving along like always. So, and tomorrow's 9/11. So I know it is in everybody's hearts and thoughts too. So thank you.
Thank you. Financial Services Director, Chris Gorski.
Yeah, I have nothing tonight. Thank you very much.
Okay, City Attorney, Doug
Thinking
White.
good. Nothing else to add tonight.
I just wanted to say I received an email from you earlier about some of the laws that are coming through the courts and that sort of thing. So thank you for sending that.
No problem.
Okay, so City Administrator, Mary Rose.
I just want to thank the public for their patience in regards to the rescheduling of the council meeting. This is the second meeting we've had to reschedule in a month due to power outages. So I just want to once again thank the public. We are fully implemented in a new agenda management system. So if you're having, members of the public, if you're having any issue with recognizing where to go to download your new packet or a new system packet, please contact our office and we will gladly show you where you need to go on the website to ensure you're seeing our council meeting agendas. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Sagestrom.
I don't really have anything to report other than, avoiding smoke inhalation, but I will be pursuing some energy, the energy committee agendas with Mary Rose. There's an opportunity for a grant to replace the energy for the city hall and the to do an energy upgrade and the fire museum. So
cool.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
She was the right person for that committee.
I agree. Councilmember Garaventa.
The Transportation Council meeting that was scheduled for yesterday has been also postponed because of the PSPS. Although by the time it was canceled, we could have actually had the meeting. But from what I understand, it's going to be probably rescheduled for next Wednesday. If not,
Thursday or Friday.
Oh, has it changed again? Okay.
I thought that's what she sent out to the
Okay, it may have changed because I think our chair had an issue with Wednesday. But anyway, it's going to be next week sometime. And there was a, TUD was having a tour of the what they're doing up at Phoenix Lake, and that was supposed to be also yesterday. And they've decided to reschedule that for a future date. So I was going to go to both of those and didn't. So
yeah, I
other
was
than that,
looking forward to it, but I wasn't looking forward to the heat.
yeah,
I
or the
was looking
smoke.
forward to it until I started working again.
So that's it for me.
Thank you. Councilmember Such.
I had the same things canceled as Jim. I did, there was a homeless task force meeting today. Did you not get that email?
I did not.
A lot of people didn't get that email. There were a lot of people that didn't know what was going on.
Oh.
So
I will make sure we reach out to Calais for that.
well, and Hazel Mitchell didn't know that was happening, and she's on that committee as well. So I just told her I'd always email her when I get an email. I'll email you and you can email me. Perfect. So anyhow, that's it. I don't have anything else.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes. Sorry to torment everyone further, but at the Access Tuolumne meeting, they once again asked me to bring up the PEG fees, and we, as I understand it, were researching to see exactly what the council had decided in the past, and that our means of researching are very time intensive, and that's been put off. So I just told them that I would bring it up again, and it's very dear to the heart of pretty much everybody there, because that's money that is otherwise just being wasted on PG&E. So that's it.
Or Comcast.
Comcast, or whoever. Yeah, right. You know a lot more about that.
Comcast gets to keep that money.
Right.
Basically.
You would be a better representative for it, but
Well,
I can bring it up and just gently remind us that.
What kind of fees were they? I'm sorry.
It's a fee that is collected by Comcast from all of their users, and it is for
Community
entities, outreach and entities.
Yeah, it's a
Jim can
1%
describe
fee
it.
on bills that gets sent to our local public access for capital expenses. They can't do it for operations, but they can do it for capital. And PEG stands for Public, Educational, and Governmental. That's the up to three public access stations you can get under the Cable Act. And we have one station currently that does for all three, but they call it PEG fees for that reason. And so we passed an enabling ordinance about a year and a half ago, and to allow that to happen. The county's already done that, and they get money from the county. We didn't do it right away when that changed, when the different franchise arrangement changed. Went to state oversight as opposed to each individual county's oversight. So the county did it right away. The city did not. That was about 5 years ago, or probably even more. But that finally passed here about a year ago, by the council, and it's just a matter of getting it.
Will it be retroactive when?
No, that's
the rub.
Yeah. So
that's the rub anyway with Access Tuolumne.
And a public service announcement for Access Tuolumne for people interested in learning how to run their cameras. They are offering classes for next to nothing. It's like $25 a day. And then one can actually have access to their camera equipment and do stuff. So
when is this going to start?
Sometime in the next, it sounded like probably 6 weeks. I think the dates right now are still a little indefinite, but they have an initial group and a teacher, and they're just slowly wending their way through the process of organizing it. But for interested parties, it's a killer deal.
Cool.
So anyway,
Okay.
Thank you.
So, I just will say 19 years ago tomorrow was our September 11th terrorist attacks. And I remember waking up in the morning and seeing the one tower, and I remember the fear I had, I think many of us had, and not knowing what was going on, all the airplanes in the country being grounded, that sort of thing. And, thank God we're so much better now than we were then. And something I wanted to bring up to the council, and I hope there's a few people listening, I really do, but I touched on it a little bit ago earlier, but there are definitely outside entities trying to separate this council. This council works well, even though we may argue, we may debate, we may not even like each other all the time, but we have a really well-run city, a very lean-run city. And there are those out there that are really trying to divide us, whether they're pulling one member aside and, trash talking another, or it's going all over the internet. And I'm not just talking about social media, but when you set up web pages and you are authorless, there's nobody to back it up, and you have to run through 2 countries to hide from it, hide your IPO address, that's cowardness. Cowardness, yes. So just keep in mind, all the council members here, there are people that are going to try to manipulate the situation, try to harm the city and harm this our county for their own personal greed. And I just urge every council member, if they believe something like that's going on, just leave it alone. You know, we're all going to debate, but the people, the city, the people of Sonora put us here, and we need to remain strong. Remember, these are hard times. Remember that we're not always going to get along, but we need to remain respectful of one another. So I absolutely, you know, I mean that, you know, we need to stick together and do the work of the city. So that's all I have tonight, and thank you.
Amen.